This is Miss Witt coming to you live from my 5th period planning time. So I know you were super proud that I did this earlier today. But today we were doing Box It Up, which was learning about the I call it the 5-point summary, but it's really called the 5-number summary. And it's how we make a box and whiskers plot or just a box plot. You need those 5 numbers in order to complete the box plot. So I'm going to kind of go through all the papers that go with this lesson. I know in some classes we did not get to everything, so that's why I'm going to kind of go through all the papers. We'd start off today with our warm-up, and we took our stem leaf plot and we created these numbers that you see right here, and we had to find the median. This goes with yesterday's lesson, which was the middle number once you put the numbers in order, so it's 83. And then we talked about all the vocabulary that goes with this lesson, and I had everyone write down these definitions, so hopefully you have them in your notebook. If you don't, I suggest you put it in now and pause the screen. To the next page, we did this in class, and this is actually the data from my 3rd period where we had to write down, we were supposed to use a penny, but I talked to my classes and said whoever decided to use a penny was never a teacher, because those pennies would be flying across the room, making so much clatter and noise that we decided to go with family members that were still alive that lived in Florida. So these were all the kids, their family members in my 3rd period. And so the first thing we did was we wrote them in order from least to greatest. And we started off, this is a 5-point summary or a 5-number summary of all of our numbers. So it starts off with your minimum number, which is your lowest, which would have been 4. Maximum was 50, which was my highest number. And then the median, or sometimes referred to as a Q2, is the middle number of all the numbers. So it's like at the 50% point. So we found the middle, which was 15. And so that's where that goes. Then what is the lower quartile, otherwise known as a Q1? That is also the median. It is actually the median of the lower half. So you can see I did that. I boxed it in blue here, and those were all my lower half numbers, and we found the middle, which was 8, and so that's why I put 8 there. And then we also do the median of the upper half, and that would be 40, which is in the middle. And so those are our 5-number summaries or 5-point summaries. And then we have to now graph them on a box plot or a box and whisker plot. This is where your lower number goes. Is at the first dot, and your maximum number goes to the maximum points on the number line. Then your box represents your 3 medians. So your middle median, or the median of all the numbers, was 15, so that's why it goes there. The median of my lower half of numbers, from 15 all the way to 4, was 8. And then the median of my upper half, which was from 15 all the way to 50, was 40. Now you might say, well, 40 isn't really in the middle between 15 and 50, but no, with the numbers that were actually given to us, it was. So now, another thing that we talked about was the range, which that was a 5th grade skill, which the range is the difference from your highest number to your lowest number. So you subtract the two. But the interquartile range is the same thing, but you're doing the range from the higher median to the lower median. Okay, so hopefully that will help you a little bit. Now, what happens if for some reason I would have had 2 numbers in my middle? Let's say I had another 15 here in the middle, and so I ended up with these 2 15s as my middle number. What happens in that case? Well, what happens is there's a split, and this 15 right here would be included in the lower half, and this 15 would be included in the upper half when you find the medians of those two. Also, something we discussed is percentage. So this is called a quartile, which there's 4 quarters in a dollar. So this is the first quartile, this is the second quartile, third quartile, and then to the fourth quartile. Each quartile is worth 1/4 or 25%. So this is 25%, This is 25%. This is 25%. And this is 25%. So if I were to ask you what percent would be in the lower quartile, you would say 25%. And the upper quartile would be 25%. What percent would include the middle, or all the medians? Would be 50%, because it would be 25 and 25 together. So 50%. I hope that helps a little bit with that. I'm going to go through again. These are some things. Now, these numbers are some different numbers. I used some numbers from a previous lesson to practice with. So these are the numbers. We first put them in order, so that they go in order. We found, so the lowest number would be 35. The highest number would be 42. The quartile 2, or the main middle median of all the numbers, would be 37. And then I had to find the middle of the lower half, not including that 37. So when I did that, I actually came up with 36. So when I do the upper half, it ended up being 40. So 40 was my quartile 3. So you can see where I plotted the minimum, then I plotted the maximum. It kind of breaks it down by just talking about the minimum and the maximum. And then we talk about the range, which would have been the range of the whole thing, which would have been the 2 dots, which would have been 7 if I used those numbers. The next page, going back to that again, here's another example to show you that this is quartile 1, the medium of the lower half. This is quartile 2, the medium of all the numbers, and quartile 3, which is the medium of the upper half. These are the steps for calculating the quartiles for each data set. You can read those. And then also this kind of talks about the percentages. So we have here 1/4, which is 25, 25, 25, and 25 for a total of 100%. Then we here talked about a little bit about what numbers would be in all of quartile 1, which the actual quartile 1 would be 36. Quartile B2, which would include all the numbers, but we found out the middle number was 37. And then, I don't think you guys can see it, quartile 3, it was 40. I have to zoom in real close. So, that's that page. This is the next page. Okay. And it talks again about the different quartiles. Now, how do we find the quartile range? We talked about this already. It's not a range of all the numbers. It's the range of just that box that we made on the box plot. So your highest median from your lowest median. So the IQR for all those numbers would have been 4. Now we went ahead and I wrote in all of our data points from our previous numbers. And then here's some more practice with some other numbers. So if you looked at 12A, you could practice a little bit. So you could not pause, you can kind of go maybe back to another page and not look at this. Let's do that. And maybe answer 12A on your own. Try to do the 5 points of 12A. Then you can go back, so you could pause it right here and work it out. Then you could go back and check to see if your answers are right. So I put my numbers in order, okay? And then my minimum number was 16. My maximum number was 32. And then what happened here is if I cross these out, I actually had 2 middle numbers. We had not seen one really like this. Well, what's between 20 and 24? 22. So 22 would be my middle number. It would be my median. If I had just asked you for the median, you would have said 22. But when I do my 5-point summary, it would be the quartile 2 or the middle of the box. Now I need to find the middle of the lower half from the 22 all the way back. So I have to include 20 now because he's below 22. So I look at the middle of these numbers. In the middle of these numbers, I would have 18. So that becomes the median of the lower half, or quartile 1. Goes right there. Then I find the middle of my upper half, which would have been 30, and that goes here. Now, if I ask you for the range of all the numbers, it would be 32 minus 16. If I ask you for the interquartile range, it's the range of the highest quartile from the lowest quartile, and that would be 12. Okay? If you want, you can go ahead and practice B as well. Here's B. And then you can, oops, let's go away from there. Why don't you do it, pause it right here, and then you can unpause it and check your work. So once you check your work, there you go. There's the answers for B. Okay. If I go on, there is just some more information on some of your pages. Kind of talks a little bit about the percentages. The lower is 25, the upper is 25, and then 50% for your 3 medians. And then here is just some more answers using these numbers. Okay, so you have to sometimes read a box plot. So if they ask me for the minimum, I look over here, this is the minimum. If they ask me for the maximum, I go up to the top dot. Then this would be the quartile 2, or the median. This would be quartile 3, and this would have been quartile 1. And then I find the range by subtracting the quartiles, quartile 1 from quartile 3. It really should be called interquartile range. These you don't agree with. If you read this one is no. Both whiskers represent 25%. Again, you can just read through these and write them down in your notes if you'd like. Again, here's some more notes. You can write in on your pages if you like. And then here is the talk to talk, and there's some more answers here. Again, reading a double box plot. A double box plot. Oops, went too much. Okay, so your assignment tonight, you had to write these definitions, which we talked about these a lot in class today. Oh, this is the wrong pages. Excuse me. This is from last night's homework. Let's see if I can find tonight's homework. Let's see. Okay, here's tonight's homework. So here's your vocabulary for tonight's homework. You need to answer those. Remember, these are not problems. A lot of you guys think this is. This is just explaining what the 5-number summary or the 5-point summary data set includes. We talked a lot about this just a few minutes ago. Then you have your practice. Yes, you need to do all of 1. It says identify the median of the data, interprets its median. When they say median, they mean quartile 2. Where is the median? Would it be 65? Would it be 80? Would it be 85? Would it be 95 or 100? I'm going to give you a hint. It is 85. Then you need to identify the range of all the numbers. All the numbers. Okay? Not the interquartile range. Okay, and then you keep reading. I think this kind of cuts off here, but then part 2 says answer each question using the data set. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Oh, there we go. Answer each question using the data set 0, 5. So you have to actually make sure the numbers are in order, which they look like they are. So do this, the box plot, whisker plot, you have to have the 5 points. You have to have the minimum. You have to have the max. You have to have the median of all the numbers, otherwise known as quartile 2. You have to have the median of the lower half, which would be quartile 1. And then you have to have the median of the upper half, which will be quartile 3. Once you get all those numbers, then you create your box plot like they did here. The next page, this is again from yesterday. Let me see if I can Let me see if I can insert your second page that you're supposed to have. Here it is. So here you have to do all of 3. All of 3. You have to do all of 4. You do not have to do any of this 5 or any of the stretch. And then you do have the review. Again, this is the wrong review. Let me get the right review on here. Here we go. Oops. And you have to do all the review. So in the review, they're asking you to do the mean, the median, the mode, and the range of both of the sets of numbers. So remember the mean, he's kind of a pain in the booty, he's Mr. Meanie. You have to add the numbers, count how many numbers you added, and then divide. For the median, you have to find all the number that's in the middle, but you have to put them from least to greatest. The mode, you have to see the one that's repeated the most. And for the range, you're subtracting the high from the low. Okay? Then you're going to create a dot plot. Oh, a dot plot using these. So remember what a dot plot is. It's where you have your line and you're going to have your number starting with your lowest one, which I think is 1. And you'd find all the 1s. And you can put dots above them, or you can put X's. And then you would say 2. How many 2's do I have? I have 1, 2. So I would do 2 dots above there, and then you would go so on, all the way till you get all your numbers. And then B says display the scores on a recent map. The data is there. It says describe the distribution. So you would need to create a dot plot with B and then decide if you go to the tallest point. At the tallest point, if it goes down to the left, then it's skewed left. If the tallest point's up here and it goes down, then it's skewed right. If the tallest point's in the middle and it goes down in both directions, then it's symmetrical. And then you got to answer 3, which you should know how to do this. Remember, you are just multiplying straight across. And you can simplify ahead of time if you'd like to. So for here, I would maybe simplify the 4 and the 8, and it would become 1 and 2. So now I'm just going to be doing 3 times 1, which is 3. And then I would do 2 times 5, which is 10. And now my answer is already simplified for me. Hope you have a good night. I hope this helps you a lot. And please just make sure you pause on a page and read it fully if you don't understand. See you tomorrow, bright and early.